just point to the logo on my chest and tell them, Slam me, ego, Slam me, ego, Slam me, ego, Slam me, hey. Hit it up hard, hit it with a strike. From the national anthem to the bottom of the night. Amen. Slam me, ego, Slam me, ego, Slam me, ego, Slam me, hey. You already know what's up. What's that? Another home run. We should know the job ain't done till we hold that trophy up. Hey.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Talking Friars here on this Thursday night, or today's Friday, right? Today's not Thursday. I lose track of days. Friday night, October 17th. There was an article out in The Athletic from Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal this morning that I wanted to hit on because there was some stuff in there that was interesting and as definitely something that Padres fans should know about. And it's definitely something that got Padres fans talking today. And it's related to who's running this team and who actually is running this team. Because you think it's AJ Preller, the president of baseball operations, the general manager, but then you read some things here in The Athletic and it's like, oh, well, maybe Eric Greupner has an influence here. And maybe these two guys don't get along the best, which is what I'm thinking is the case. And could that create some problems? Could that be a reason why AJ Preller doesn't want to remain with the Padres eventually at some point? Who knows? But here's what the title was in The Athletic. Amid another Padres manager search, GM AJ Preller's future remains uncertain. And I see Ken Rosenthal's name on here, and just like you guys, I'm like, oh, great, here we go. Another Ken Rosenthal, AJ Preller article. Feels like it happens almost every year. And Ken's in the middle of covering the ALCS between the Mariners and the Blue Jays and has time to be contributing to this article here. I'm sure a lot of the work was done by Dennis, obviously. He's the one that covers the Padres. He's the one that has the closer relationships with those in the Padres organization. But obviously, seeing Ken on there, that probably didn't make a lot of Padres fans very happy because of what has happened in the past with Ken and the Padres and some of his reporting. But, like, I thought we were past this, to be quite honest. I thought AJ, because I think he's going to stay, and I think he's going to get an extension. But there was info that came out that says that Eric Greupner got an extension quietly, while AJ Preller did not. And let's remember, Mike Shildt had an extension signed, I believe, at the end of last season through 2026. Obviously, he's not here anymore, but he got an extension. AJ Preller didn't. Eric Greupner quietly got an extension. He didn't. So what's going on here? Why is this happening? Why is an extension not happening for AJ? Let's see. Where should we start here? Let's start with Greupner and about him. He already had a small stake in the team. So this is from the article. His situation stands in contrast to another leader of the franchise, talking about Preller's situation in contrast to Eric Greupner. In 2024, CEO Eric Greupner, who already held a small stake in the team, quietly received a multi-year extension while working under interim control person Eric Kutsenda, according to multiple people inside and outside the organization. Greupner, like Preller, had already been extended by late owner Peter Seidler through the 2026 season. Greupner's equity in the club and his latest extension, which was struck during a year of 93 wins and record attendance, had not been previously reported. So Greupner gets an extension while working under Eric Kutsenda. If you're Eric Kutsenda, like, why is it an extension being given to Eric Greupner when you're not the full control person? And Greupner gets a small stake in the team. So did Eric Greupner buy his small stake in the team? Was he given this in part of a new contract? Why does Greupner have a stake in the team? And he's the CEO? Like, that's a lot of power. While AJ Preller just works for the team. Like, at the end of the day, I know he has that title of president of baseball operations and general manager, but he just works for the team. Eric Greupner doesn't just work for the team. He's got an equity stake in this club. So when it comes down to, does AJ Preller get an extension? and for how many years, who has those conversations? It's John Seidler, and then I assume all the other people that have a stake in the team would get some sort of say, at least express their opinion. And Eric Greupner is a part of that. And what we think Eric Greupner doesn't have baseball thoughts, of course he does. And it was hinted at here that maybe Preller actually didn't want Mike Schilt, and maybe he wanted Ryan Flaherty, but maybe he got veto. He didn't win that fight and ended up going, Mike Schilt as the manager of this team. Over the last 2 years, I'm reading from this article, team sources said employees throughout the organization noticed increasing tension between Preller and Grupner, whose influence has grown. Some point to the fact that despite stylistic and personality differences, the long-tenured executives have together presided over a marketable product on and off the field. And that's true. Together, marketable product on the field. But for me, like if we're going down between, if I'm picking AJ or Eric Greupner, I'm picking AJ. There's no doubt. But the Padres have picked Eric Greupner. They're the ones that have given him an extension. They're the ones that have given him an equity stake in this team. So who's going to win this fight? It's going to be Eric Greupner. If it's a pick one situation. If I'm AJ Preller, do I want to be reporting to Eric Greupner? Right now, he's reporting to John Seidler, I think. But Eric Greupner, he has the ownership stake, CEO of the team. The Padres could say, AJ, you report to Eric Greupner. If I'm AJ, I would not be happy about that. And I would not want to be reporting to Eric Greupner. I would want to be reporting to John Seidler because I'm the president of baseball operations. I don't want to be reporting to the CEO of the team. That's not how I'm going to be rolling with this, with how long I've been working for this team, And if that's what happens, or the Padres try to propose that to AJ, like AJ could just be like, all right, I'm going to go to the Colorado Rockies. You think the Rockies would sit there and not hire AJ Preller to run their team? Of course they would. And Preller, in a statement to The Athletic on Thursday, said, and this was not alarming, but really stood out to me. Eric and I have been together my entire time here and enjoy a strong and productive working relationship. That's all you got for someone that's been, he's the CEO of the team, you're the president of baseball ops, the GM, like those are two powerful positions in the organization. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of times where you guys interact. You've known each other for a long time. And that's what you got. We enjoy a strong and productive working relationship. Let's translate that. What does that actually mean? That means, yeah, we're not the biggest fans of each other, but we make it work because we have to, because we work with each other. That's the way that reads. That reads they don't like each other very much. And they make it work because they have to make it work. That's what that seemed like. So not a ringing endorsement from AJ, that's for sure. And again, if it's a fight between Eric and they're not fighting, nothing's been reported that they're fighting, but it's pretty clear to me that they don't have the best relationship. I'm not as I said earlier, like if I'm picking AJ or Eric Greupner, I'm picking AJ Preller. AJ's the one that is constructing the roster. And Eric Greupner, I know he's done great business things on that side of things. I don't care about that, to be quite honest. Sure, Petco Park, it's great that it's a great ballpark. Best in the league, great. Food, great. If the Padres were playing in the Oakland Coliseum, if they were playing at the Trop, let's say the Trop still existed and had the roof and everything. If they were playing at Marlins Park, I don't care where they were playing, but they were a World Series team. That's what I want. I care about a World Series. I don't care about the ballpark. It's a plus. The World Series thing isn't a plus. That's what we want, right? And I don't want Eric Greupner to be having these influences on baseball decisions. I don't care what he thinks about baseball decisions. I care what AJ thinks. I want AJ to be the one making these decisions. And to me, when Greupner has an ownership stake in the team, he quietly gets an extension. Padres could have announced it, but they didn't. Why didn't they? You got to ask these questions. Why did Schilt get an extension, but AJ didn't? Why did Greupner get an extension, but AJ didn't? And Greupner's not in John Seidler's ear? Of course he is. I'm just not the biggest fan of Eric Greupner. Maybe the one comment that he made about, if Padres fans woke up from being in what did he say, a coma for 3 years or something, and they woke up and saw the players that they had, right, Bogarts and all the big stars, because I think Bogarts was part of the quote or part of something that was happening there. You'd be grateful. So kind of like settling and being like, well, it was better than it was a while ago, so be happy about that. We're not going to spend more money. We're okay with being where we're at. That's the vibe that I was getting from Eric Greupner on that. And let me look up that quote because I'm sure it's pretty easy to look up because I want to get it right. Because I think he said it to Kevin Acee. Let's see. It's not coming up here. Oh, maybe it's right here. Hang on. Yep, here it is. Found it. So this was December of 2023. So mind you, this is 2022 NLCS. 2023, they missed the playoffs. And so us Padres fans, obviously, we want more. We want that dedication from the Padres spending wise, to make that step. And what does Eric Greupner say about the Padres' lack of spending in the offseason, in that offseason in particular, at that time? I understand fans might focus on the departure of Soto and free agents we might not sign this year, but we feel like we have a great core group of players. If fans fell asleep 3 years ago and woke up to see the caliber of players we had under long-term contracts, they would be pretty surprised. Even if it might seem lower than some fans expect at times moving ahead, talking about the payroll, it still is significantly higher than it historically has been. So that to me right there pissed me off. That was a comment where it's like, all right, you're good with settling with where you're at. Hey, we're not the 2015 Padres. Hey, we're not the 2012 Padres, so be happy. We're not the 2019 Padres or 2017 Padres, so be happy. That's not what you want to hear from the team CEO. If fans fell asleep 3 years ago and woke up to see the caliber of players we had under long-term contracts, they would be pretty surprised. Well, we haven't been, Eric. We haven't been. And that was a terrible comment to make. So maybe that comment is just sticking out in my head, but I'm just not a fan of his, really. And like this, to me, it just seems like the Padres, they're picking Eric Greupner over AJ Preller right now. And that's not where the priority should be. Now, that's me as a fan who wants to win. Padres ownership, this is a business to them. And with Peter Seidler, it was less of a business. It was more about winning and building the best baseball team. Since his passing, it's been more about a business, is what it seems like. And this only reaffirms it. Eric Greupner quietly getting an extension. Why did they quietly do it? It's the team CEO. Why quietly do it? Quietly gets it. Preller doesn't. Preller, his future is the one that's uncertain. Who's filling the seats more, AJ or Eric Greupner? AJ is. So if you want to talk about the business, AJ Preller's helping your business pretty darn good. And he's helping you win a lot of baseball games, which should be the priority here. But yeah, I was not the only one that was not happy about Eric Greupner's comments there. Yeah, we're better than we were 4 years ago, but we're not in as good of a place as we were a shorter time ago. But be happy because it's not like we're in the same spot that we were 4 years ago. Yeah. Well, guess what? The bar was very low 4 years ago to get over that bar. The Padres weren't good. And I think this was a good comment at the time of that Grupner quote from @DaterBaker. If I fell asleep 3 years ago and woke up, I'd wonder why my team missed the playoffs 2 of the last 3 seasons with season tickets still increasing. Valid point. Like, season tickets go up. Prices go up in the stadium. Parking? Not very cheap. I take the trail. I don't park. But some people do. A lot of people do. Not very cheap. Things at Petco Park, not very cheap. So you want that dedication there, and you don't want the CEO making dumb comments like that. You know, because he can go to the game for free because he works for the team. He can sit in the first row and enjoy all that. That's not what Padres fans get. Like, they pay for the product. So don't love that. Didn't love that. And that's something that I'm not. When I think of Eric Greupner, that's like the first thing I think of. I don't think about the ballpark. Again, we could play in the crappiest stadium in the world. I care about the Padres winning a World Series. And they haven't done it. And I hope that they don't lose AJ Preller because the Padres decided to be on Eric Greupner's side over AJ Preller's side. I don't like that. But yeah, not a ringing endorsement from Preller. Getting back to that, Eric and I have been together my entire time here and enjoy a strong and productive working relationship. That's all their relationship is a working relationship. And that's okay. But, you know, Preller had to make it sound as good as possible. It doesn't seem like it's a very good relationship. And it doesn't seem like Eric Greupner is the biggest fan of AJ Preller. Because Greupner might look at it as, you are spending a lot of the team's money for a product that hasn't got us a World Series. He may look at it from the business side instead of just the winning baseball game side, which is the side you should be looking at it from, because that's the whole goal here. He may be looking at it from the business side and be like, yeah, I don't love how AJ Preller operates. We haven't won yet. Well, it's pretty hard to win. And as the CEO, you love to throw out there, the season tickets, the numbers there, and the wait list, and the attendance, and the records. Again, who should get more of the credit for that? AJ or Eric Greupner? It's AJ Preller. It should not be Eric Greupner. You don't have 40,000 people coming to the ballpark just because, the food's really good, or it's the best ballpark in base. That's not why. That's not why. It's the baseball team on the field. And that's not Eric Greupner. That's AJ. And I didn't forget this. Don't worry. Didn't forget the letter that Eric Greupner sent out after the trade deadline, where he mentions Mike Shildt. He mentions all the players that the Padres acquired. He did not mention AJ Preller. Like, what are we doing? He does things intentionally. Like, he's a smart guy. How do you write a letter after the trade deadline and you don't include AJ Preller in the letter? Like, add it up. Add it up. He quietly gets an extension. AJ doesn't have one. He has an ownership stake in the team. He obviously has an opinion baseball-wise on stuff. Mike Shildt got an extension. AJ didn't. Usually you'd line up the manager and the president of baseball ops. You write a letter, you don't include AJ. In comments in the past, you make it seem like you're okay with where the Padres are at spending-wise and settle with where you're at because you got star players on the team and that's good enough. Like, no. Dennis and Ken right here. Why was Preller not extended last year when Greupner and Shildt were? Was Preller overruled by Kutsenda and Greupner in the original decision to name Mike Shildt manager, as some in the industry suspect? And will the selection process be different this time around? Is Preller Removed from the rare flexibility and close relationship he enjoyed with Seidler, comfortable remaining in San Diego when others were extended before him. And finally, would the Padres give their next manager a multi-year deal while risking the perception of employing a lame duck general manager? That's not an ideal situation, right? Said a Padres official who was not authorized to speak publicly. In a perfect world, you'd always want corresponding terms, lengths with GMs and managers. Yeah. I don't understand why the Padres would have AJ Preller, and maybe it's not going to be AJ Preller picking the manager. Who knows with this organization? But AJ is going to be involved, obviously. Why would you give a manager a multi-year contract and then you keep AJ Preller on the same deal and not match? Like if that happens and I'm AJ Preller, and if I'm AJ and I'm like, all right, I'm going to help hire this manager, and your contract isn't announced at the same time as the manager, like there's a problem there. If Preller should wish to explore other options outside San Diego, the landscape is limited. The Rockies are the only team with an opening for their head of baseball operations. And let's face it, does AJ want to go to the Rockies? Of course not. He wants to spend money. He wants to acquire big players. The Rockies are not the place to do that. Blue Jays executive and former Houston Astros GM James Click, Royals assistant GM Scott Sharp, and Guardians assistant GM Matt Foreman have interviewed for that position. For Preller to become involved, the Padres would need to grant permission for the Rockies to speak to him and allow him out of the final year of his contract, the way they did with Bob Melvin when he left to become manager of the Giants. In the meantime, Preller echoed what he said Tuesday when asked about his contract status. I love the Padres and the city of San Diego. I'm proud of what we've all built here, and I'm looking forward to the offseason work ahead. Which, I mean, what else is he going to say? I really hope they don't screw this up. I really don't. Because it's going to be I'm telling you, it's going to be one of those situations where you're not going to realize what you had until it's gone. I think a lot of Padres fans realize what we have. I realize what we have in AJ. But if Eric Greupner and John Seidler are closer than John Seidler and AJ Preller are, which I would not be surprised, and Eric Kutsenda, like, he's still involved in the Padres organization. I think he's a special advisor. Let me actually double check that. But while Eric Kutsenda was in charge, Greupner got the extension, which still is a little mind-boggling, to be honest. Eric Kutsenda, special advisor to the chairman. And you I encourage you to go to the front office directory, the Padres on Padres.com. It will say executives. First one's Peter Seidler, in memoriam. Great. Next one down, John Seidler, chairman. The next one down is not AJ Preller. The next one down is Eric Greupner, chief executive officer. Who's below Eric Greupner? AJ Preller, president of baseball operations and general manager. Then they've got Caroline Perry, the chief operating officer, and then they've got Kutsenda, special advisor to the chairman. But he's in that executive group. Greupner's ahead of AJ. And again, I go back to he got the extension, AJ didn't. And to me, it doesn't seem like John Seidler and AJ Preller are close, or I feel like we would have heard more about their relationship, but we haven't. The growing influence that's mentioned here in this article, according to team officials, Greupner has wielded greater influence than he previously had. Why is that? Because it's been allowed? Because Peter's not there? What does AJ think about that? I don't think he's the biggest fan of that. Just taking a guess. Schilt was announced as the team's new manager on November 21st, 2023. While Preller respected Schilt for his baseball acumen and work ethic, club sources said the GM's personal preference was to select Ryan Flaherty, who was then the bench coach and offensive coordinator. Flaherty, now with the Cubs as their bench coach, began his coaching career with the Padres in late 2019. He is expected to again be a managerial candidate in San Diego. Why is that? Because AJ Preller is running it. Would he be a managerial candidate if Eric Greupner had a list? No, he would not. 2 years ago, however, a more collective hiring decision might have been expected. Weeks before Peter's death, the most expensive team in franchise history had ended its season as also the most disappointing. Preller, during his Padres tenure, had been given unprecedented resources while he churned through more managers, including 3 first-time managers and coaches than any GM in baseball. Just trying to. There's a bunch of quotes in here from Preller's press conference. Just trying to see if there's anything that sticks out here. Goes on to talk about Schultz, not the first high-ranking employee to depart in the last 2 years. Bob Melvin, obviously. Fred Ullman Jr., who was the assistant GM, he left. He resigned to pursue other opportunities. Vice president of baseball systems, Wells Oliver, left after 15 years. He went to the Penguins to work in a similar role in the NHL. You look at that and it's like, who's the common theme? So if you want to be on Grupner's side, you could be like, well, AJ, look what's happening. But you could also look at the on-field and that they've been winning a lot of games in the recent years with AJ Preller. And the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And AJ Preller knows this organization better than anybody, obviously, in that organization. And so to go with the business guy over the baseball guy, when the baseball guy's been here this long, and we know how creative he is, and that desire to win, that's just not a decision I'd be making. Because the business is going to do well when the team does well. When the team doesn't do well, the business can only do so much. So what's more important, the business guy or the baseball guy? And maybe they're just going to keep going with this, and AJ stays, and Greupner, we know he's staying. Maybe they just keep going with this, and they just make it work. But it might be a choose one of us, and it doesn't seem like AJ would win that battle, which sucks. I still think AJ will get an extension. Like, they're allowing him to run this managerial interview process. So if they were going to make a change, like, you'd be stupid to be wasting time like this and keep AJ. So I think he's staying. And it would be really weird if the Padres didn't give him an extension and they signed a manager. You're not signing a manager to a 1-year contract. What manager is going to go to agree to that? Someone would, because it's a manager job in baseball. But if you want, your best options, you give him a multi-year deal. You give him at least 2-year deal, probably 3. And then you're just going to have AJ Preller not get any deal. You're not going to match it up again. The whole quiet thing about Greupner getting an extension, that still doesn't really sit right with me. Like, why not announce it? If the organization is so proud of what Eric Greupner's done and the attendance and all that, why not announce it? We've agreed to an extension with Eric Greupner through this year, blah, blah, blah. Eric's done, you could have John Seidler put out a statement, or Eric could send it at the time and be like, this is what Eric Greupner's done for this organization. The attendance, he's been the CEO while the Padres, you could talk about the success on the field even. Because you can spin it away of, Eric Greupner brought a bunch of fans into the stands, and that's been money put back into the team, which You don't know how much, but you can spin it that way. I just don't understand. Why do you quietly announce it? Are you afraid that this was going to come out where you didn't want people to know that Grupner got extended because then it would bring up more questions about his relationship with AJ Preller and what the heck's going on here? The stake in the franchise that Eric Greupner has. It's all a little fuzzy, if that makes sense. I'm not the biggest fan of Greupner, so maybe I'm coming at it from a different angle here. I just don't forget things. I'm not going to forget things. You know, when you make dumb comments, I'm not going to forget it. Especially when like the whole goal is to go win a World Series, and then you make some comments like that. Yeah, not great. All right, before getting to the chat, shout out to the great partners of this show. Gaglione Bros, famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries. Their main location is on Friars Road. Check them out. Their link is in the description. Full menu, the address, phone number, all that good stuff. Great cheesesteaks, great garlic fries, cheesesteak fries. And during the Padres season, they're at Petco Park. They're inside Snapdragon Stadium as well. San Diego FC's on the road. San Diego Wave, they're at home tomorrow night for the final home game in their regular season. So check out Gaglione Bros if you're there. It'll be on the east side of the stadium on the concourse there. Um, Breaking Tea, they've got Padres and Aztecs shirts and sweatshirts. Click the link in the description there. And SeatGeek Code Talking Friars, $20 off your first order when you sign up with your email address. It's not just Padres games, there's concerts, there's other events. It will work when you sign up with your email address. So trying to help you out there. All right, let's get to the chat here. Irie with the super chat, thank you so much. Says, I would sit down with AJ and say, we will give you whatever you need this year to get us to the World Series, win or lose. But if we don't make it, sayonara, best of luck. Okay, so you're saying like, yeah, we'll give you whatever. You can make all these decisions, but your butt's on the line this year. And if we don't win, then that's it. Which is a little rough to be putting him in that spot because there's a lot of stuff that you can't control. Like AJ Preller, I think, has done a pretty darn good job of controlling what he can control. And then the stuff that he can't control hasn't gone well. Like Jason Adam gets hurt. Joe Musgrove was out. Yu Darvish obviously wasn't fully healthy. I don't know. Your big guys not performing when it matters the most in October. Like you can't control that stuff. What you can control is putting a postseason roster out there on paper. And AJ Preller's done that year in, year out now for a while. So putting his job on the line based on October, that may be a little unfair because he can only do so much. He can do stuff in the offseason, he can do stuff before the trade deadline, but after that, like what if let's say they're on pace to win 100 games next year and then Manny gets hurt? You're going to fire AJ Preller because they didn't win? Like that's not his fault that Manny got hurt. What if Manny and Nando could get hurt? Merrill dealt with a lot of stuff this year. Concussion, other injuries. He couldn't control that. So that's not really that fair, I don't think. And again, like a manager is going to be hired and they're going to be given a contract. So what? It's going to be a 1-year deal. I think if you're the Padres, you got to make it at least a 2-year deal and then tack on at least one more year for AJ. But if I'm AJ, I probably am going to want more than just 1 year. Like, oh, you're just going to give me one more year? That's not really a sign that you really believe in me. To me, that's a sign of let's just not create more speculation and distraction. So let's just line them up with whatever deal we give this manager. I like how there's Dodger fans in here when they have a playoff game going on. Thanks, though. Jose, hey, Ben, are you watching the Dodger game? No, I'm not. I don't care. Let's see. Irie says, get us to the World Series, win or lose, then we'll talk extensions. Again, like AJ can't really control how far the Padres go. Any manager updates? I haven't seen manager hiring updates or manager interview updates, I should say. I think it's funny that there's Dodger fans in here that are telling me to shut up when it's like, guys, you're the one that clicked on this. You can leave. You don't have to be here. And yet you're still here. EB says, I think Padres will be worse next year. I mean, they could. They definitely could. Who knows about the futures of Michael King, Luis Ariz, Dylan Cease? It will help having someone like Ramon Laureano. Like, we know he's under contract. Obviously, the star players they have, Musgrove coming back. Mason Miller will, I mean, obviously, it's going to be great, regardless of what role he's in, to have him either relieve or start and have him under control through like 2029. Still have Morahone, Estrada, Suarez, we'll see. Um, Jason Adam coming back, he's still under contract. So they definitely still have talent. And if AJ's running things, I have no doubt that he's going to put them in a position to make the postseason. And then you see from there. Anything else here? Stop blaming your GM at your sucky players that suck. Maybe someone in the chat's blaming the GM. I'm not blaming AJ. All right. I think that's it. I'm not seeing any comments that I'm like, okay, I need to mention this. Well, I do see this one. MCC951 says, what a time to be a Padres fan. Seriously, why can't we just enjoy the ride? Back to back playoffs for the first time in franchise history. These are the best of times. Um, well, I appreciate like the positivity there because it's very easy to be negative about this team right now. But that gives off a little bit of the Eric Greupner vibes. That comment that he made in 2023, because it's kind of like, oh, just be happy that the Padres they're a contending team. No, I'm good. I'm. It was great, 2020 making the postseason and 2022 postseason. Like I'm always grateful when the Padres make the postseason, but now it's like, all right, they got to go win. You know, the postseason is the bar. It's not even the bar, but that's like the minimum. You got to go do more than that now. Like the time has come where it's like, okay, we're taking steps. That's fine. We can make postseason. Let's take another step. Let's take another step. But like this year, eliminating the wild card series, making the postseason every year, that's not good enough anymore. So I enjoy the ride. Like when they made the postseason this year, I enjoyed that. I actually think I got a little emotional on the show, like because that's not something that's a guarantee every year. That's what I mean. We want it to be a guarantee. Like we want that to be that expectation, right? But it's not. So I do enjoy the ride. I enjoy it, and I appreciate when they make the postseason. But then you get over that because it's like, what's the whole goal here? It's not just to make the postseason. The whole goal here is to go win the entire thing. I mean, this week, I know it's a little bit of a different route I'm taking coming off that, but like this week has been Has it been? I was about to say it's been pretty wild. Has it been wild? It's the Padres. You had Schilt retire, and then it was like, oh man, this is really sad. What's going on? His health and all that. Love Schilty, and then you have coaches going after him and like this guy sucks. He was, berating us and he'd berate us and then he'd go smile to the players, 5 seconds later, um, stuff like that. And it's like, oh, okay, that's not great, Schilty. What are we doing here? So then there's questions about did he really retire? Was this the Padres being like, man, we tried to help you. You didn't change. We need to go in a different direction here. Um, I think it was still Schilt retired. But there's more to it than obviously there's more to it than just he retired because he couldn't take it anymore. There's more behind that. I don't like how he was treated or how he treated others. If the reporting is correct, and I don't have a reason to not believe Kevin. Like, the reporting is, I'm pretty sure it's going to be accurate. Like there was some stuff that was coming out of St. Louis about it too, and he even admitted to Kevin that eerily similar what he was hearing from St. Louis and San Diego after his exits at the end. So there was that. Then there was the Albert Pujols stuff yesterday, and then today you got the Athletic with another article. Like this is just the Padres. Every year there's going to be something. There's going to be some drama somewhere. And does this happen to every team in baseball? And I'm just not reading the Athletic Pirates beat writer, but it's happening there. Is this happening to the Cleveland Guardians? Or is it just a Padres thing? I mean, I'm entertained by it. Like, it's my favorite team, so this stuff is fascinating to me. But I'd rather win and not have the drama, obviously. Like, I don't think AJ really loves to have this many people talking off the record about what's happening in his organization. And if Greupner isn't the biggest fan of AJ, has Greupner ever been one of those anonymous sources? I mean, I can't count that out. JD's third with the super chat. Thank you for the support. He says, Ben, if AJ can't control how far the Padres go, why do we need him? Sounds like he is not responsible or accountable after 11 years of failure. I think when it's the Padres, you have to judge it a little bit differently than it's 11 years of failure. Like, is it really a failure in, let's say, 2020? Is it really a failure in the rebuilding years? Like, the plan was not to make the postseason in rebuilding years, right? You could say 2015 failure because you were trying to win. 2021 failure. 2022. That's kind of hard for me to sit there and be like, yeah, that's a failure. You had Tatis out with a PED suspension. You make the NLCS. Now, when the expectations are raised, like 2024, where you had the Dodgers there, yeah, you could say that's a failure. Yep. This year, you could say it's a failure. Yep. Like that bar is higher. 11 years of failure, I think that's a little much, though. And why do we need AJ Preller if AJ can't control how far the Padres go? So do you want to say that about the Dodgers? Why do the Dodgers need Andrew Friedman then if he can't control? Because he can't control. What happens, though? The players perform. Big-time players perform. Shohei, I guess, has hit a few homers tonight, and he pitched great, I guess, on the mound. You've got the talent of Mookie and Freddie. Like, those guys perform. And then you have the role players perform. But he can't control how they perform. He can't control if there are injuries. So that's my point. But thank you for that super chat. Let's see. Anything else here? some wild comments in here. Padres should trade Tatis. What are we doing? Okay, so I'm getting alerts that the Dodgers won. Yay! Baseball's so awesome. Don't know why I keep following it. It's just great. All right, the Mariners are my only hope, or the Blue Jays, but I'm really hoping the Mariners win. Never won a World Series. Haven't been to the World Series. I'm hoping they can. If they've never been to the World Series, they imagine they go win the World Series and beat the Dodgers. That would be awesome. So right now, I am a big Mariners fan. They got that win today, up 3-2 in that series, going back to Toronto. It sucks that the Brewers. I mean, we saw this coming. The Brewers, great regular season, and then that's what's gonna. They get swept when it matters the most. That's the Brewers. We knew that was gonna happen. Now, not I wasn't thinking a sweep, but no, I didn't think that they were gonna beat the Dodgers in this series. Like that's also what makes this maddening about the Padres is because if they would have just got past the Cubs, I felt good about their chances of beating the Brewers in that series. I wasn't scared of the Milwaukee Brewers. It was Dodgers or Phillies. That was going to be the big series. But the offense, something AJ can't control. He's not out there in the batter's box. The offense just didn't come through. Again. All right. Go Mariners. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for the time. Don't love this situation that's where the Padres are at with Greupner and Preller. I don't like that it seems like they've chosen Greupner over Preller right now. But, Preller could get an extension this month and then, I'll be happier. But we'll see. Thanks for the time. Much appreciated as always. See you later.